Our topic of discussion is techniques of scientific management. The first technique of scientific management is functional foremanship. It is the extension of the principle of division of work and specialization at the shop floor. Functional foremanship is a technique which aims to improve the quality of supervision at shop floor by putting a worker under 8 specialist foremen. In this technique, planning is separated from execution. In this technique, Taylor advocated separation of planning and execution functions, and each function is entrusted to a specialist foreman, that is, total of 8 specialists will guide and direct a worker. Now let us see how does this function works. We have a factory manager, and factory manager is having planning in charge and production in charge. Under planning in charge, 4 personals, namely instruction card clerk, routine card clerk, time and cost clerk, and disciplinarian works. The functions performed by them are as follows. Number 1, instruction card clerk. The function is to draft instruction for the workers. Next, route clerk. The function is to specify the route of production. Then we have time and cost clerk, and the function is to prepare time and cost sheet. And the 4th under planning in charge is disciplinarian, and the main function is to ensure discipline. Now under the production in charge, personals who work are the speed boss, the gang boss, repair boss, and the inspector. The function performed by the speed boss is for timely and accurate completion of the job, and gang boss is to maintain proper machines and tools ready for operation by the workers, and repair boss sees the proper working conditions of machines and tools, whereas the inspector checks the quality of work. Each worker will have to take orders from 8 specialist foremen in the process related or the functions of production. Now here we have to discuss a very important thing. We must keep in mind that a functional foremanship is opposite to the unity of command. Taylor's concept of functional foremanship is in direct contrast to the unity of command. The unity of command emphasized that a subordinate should receive orders and be accountable to one and only one superior. On the other hand, functional foremanship emphasized on minimum 8 specialists to supervise and give orders to the subordinates. The next technique of scientific management is method study. The object of method study is to find out one best way or method of doing the job. It helps to minimize the cost of production and maximize the quality and satisfaction of the consumer. For this purpose, many techniques like process chart and operations research are used. Let us take an example. For designing a car, the assembly line production would require deciding the sequence of operations, place for men, machines, and raw materials, etc. All this is the part of the method study. Taylor devised a concept of assembly line by using method study. Ford Motor Company used this concept very successfully. Even now, automobile companies are using it. The next technique is motion study. Motion study refers to making thorough analysis of various motions being performed by a worker while he is doing a particular task. Motions like lifting, pulling objects, sitting, and changing positions, etc. are studied through cameras. The objective of motion study is to identify wasteful and unnecessary motions or movements and eliminate them to determine the best way of doing a particular work. Taylor used stopwatches, movie camera, and various symbols and colors to identify different motions. Through motion study, Taylor was able to design suitable equipments and tools to educate workers on their use. The result achieved was remarkable. Let us take an example. If it is observed through motion study that worker has to move frequently for taking tools from the toolbox, then such unnecessary movements can be eliminated by keeping the toolbox near the worker. It will not only increase the production but also the efficiency level. Now the question is, why is a motion study conducted, or what is the objective of the motion study? Answer: motion study is conducted to determine the movement of workers while doing a typical job, to differentiate between productive and unproductive movements, to cut down unproductive movements, and to design suitable equipments and tools to minimize the unproductive movements. The fourth technique of scientific management is the time study. It is a technique to determine the standard time taken by the worker of reasonable skill and efficiency to perform a well-defined job. The objective of time study is to determine the number of workers to be employed, frame suitable incentive schemes, and to determine the labor cost. Under time study, the job is divided into series of elements, and time taken to perform each element of work is recorded with time measuring devices like stopwatches. The standard time is fixed for the whole of the task by taking several readings. The method of time study depends on volume and frequency of the task, the cycle time of the operations, and the time measurement cost. Objective of time study is to determine the number of workers to be employed, to frame the suitable incentive schemes, and to determine the labor cost. Let us take an example. On the basis of several observations, it is determined that a worker takes a standard time of 30 minutes to make one box. It means the worker can make 2 boxes in 1 hour and 14 boxes in 7 hours. Subtracting 1 hour for rest and lunch in a day shift of 8 hours. Now this is the standard time a worker has to do, and the wages can be decided accordingly. Techniques of scientific management. The next technique is fatigue study. The fatigue study refers to the determining the amount and the frequency of rest intervals required in completing a task. Fatigue means tiredness from physical and mental work. Taylor suggested that a person gets tired when he works continuously without taking any break. So, he must be provided a brief intervals in between so as to enable him to regain the lost stamina. This will result in increased productivity. The study is conducted by observing workers while performing job so as to note down the time when their efficiency level starts decreasing. There are many causes of fatigue, like long working hours, doing unsuitable work, having uncordial relations with the boss, or bad working conditions. Such hindrances in good performance should be removed. The next technique, standardization and simplification of work. Standardization refers to the process of setting standards for every business activity, and simplification aims at eliminating unnecessary diversity of products. Taylor was the supporter of standardization. According to him, scientific methods should be used to analyze methods of production prevalent under the rule of thumb. The best practices can be kept and further redefined to develop a standard which should be followed throughout the organization. This can be done through work study techniques, which includes time study, motion study, fatigue study, and method study. The objective of standardization is to reduce a given line or product to fixed types, size, or characteristics, to establish interchangeability of manufactured parts and products, to establish standards of excellence and quality in materials, to establish performance standards of men and machines. Now, the aims of simplification is to eliminate unnecessary diversity of products, size, and types. It implies reduced inventories, fuller utilization of equipment, and increasing turnover. It results in saving of the cost of labor, machines, and tools, and facilitates better control of activities. Hindustan Unilever Limited reduced its varieties of soaps and it generated efficient and effective results in the company. This is an example of standardization and simplification. The last technique of scientific management, differential piece-based system. Taylor wanted to differentiate between efficient and inefficient worker. He wanted to reward efficient worker and he wanted to motivate the inefficient worker. In this wage system, there are two piece wage rates, one for those workers who produce the standard outputs or more, and the other for those who produce less than the standard output. The difference in wages is enough for an inefficient worker to be motivated to perform better in future. This technique is the strongest motivator for a worker to reach standard performance. Due to the difference in wage rates of efficient and inefficient worker, it is known as differential piece wage system. The wages of the worker can be calculated by using the following formula, and the formula is wages is equals to actual output into wage rate. Let us take an example. Gupta Limited gives rupees 2 piece wage for a worker who works for one day 50 units or more than that and are produced 1.50 per unit if it is producing less than 50. It means rupees 2 if it is producing more than 50 or 50, and a worker is getting 1.5 if he is producing less than 50 units. So here the standard output per worker is 50 units. If a worker is producing 50 and more units, he is getting wage at a rate of rupees 2, and if he is producing less than 50 units, he is getting 1.5. Now we have two workers here. One is worker M, other is a worker N. Worker M, he produces 40 units in a day. Therefore, because he is producing less than 50, what he is getting is 40 multiply 1.5, that is rupees 60 he is getting. Now worker N, he is producing more than 50 units, means he is producing 70 units, and as per our question, 70 units multiplied by 2, he is getting 140 rupees. Now there is a difference between worker M and worker N. What is the difference? The difference is the gap of 30 units between worker M and N. Due to the gap of 30 units, the worker is having a loss of rupees 80, means worker M is having a loss of rupees 80. According to Taylor, this loss will be the strongest motivator for worker M to reach standard performance in next time.